National Chess Master R. Rats. I'm here at chess.com to launch a new series, and I'm going to endeavor to make a video for just about every opening there is, all the main lines and a number of the side lines. And I want to do this because I think it's a great way to help you learn openings. Most of opening theory comes from games that have already been played. They've collected the master and amateur games over the last 150, 200 years and compiled them and found out what works and what doesn't. And let me tell you something, it's a lot of work. And one thing to learn all this, and one thing my video lessons program teaches you is, or asks you, is how much time do you have for chess? And if you don't have a lot of time, sitting down and spending hours and hours, untold hours, studying all the most popular lines is going to yield a lot of work with very little return. In other words, particularly if you're a lower rated player, chances are your opponent won't know the book moves, okay, and you'll never get those positions, and then you may not even know how to play them once you get it. So if you got everything memorized, that's great, but doesn't really do you any good. The objective of my course is to maximize your study time. So today I'm going to focus, and I'll explain just a little bit, on one offshoot line of a common opening. In other words, it's not the most common line, but it really helps black learn an opening and learn how to play it with a minimal amount of preparation. And I'll get to it in just a moment. But anyway, I'm going to try to cover every opening there is in time, and I'm also going to run some thematic online tournaments with these, so that those that are interested in these lines get a chance to try them out, because what better way to learn an opening than to play it? And online chess is a great way, and we have a lot of that here in my group at chess.com. We have quite a bit, and we'll start sign-ups here in the near future and get some tournaments going. Online chess, in effect, is the new generation of postal chess, like I used to play, where you played by card and had to wait a week or two for a reply to come back in the mail. Now the post office no longer has custody of the cards, so the transmission is instant. But unfortunately, in the transition, as I've pointed out, from postal to instant chess, I've pointed out in my blog series how the internet has changed chess. People have not realized what postal chess is. Postal chess is a way for you to sit and take hours on a move. Now, a lot of you don't have hours, but at least take 15-20 minutes and try to make sure you're not sending a blunder. Online chess is not a replacement for the over-the-board chess, and a lot of people think this. They're online, their opponent's online, they sit back, trade 5, 6, 7 moves, and chances are one of them's going to be an oops, and there goes a game and a possibility of learning something. But online chess is a great way to learn a chess opening, because now you have time to look up openings. Now I'm going to put a link in the YouTube description here for Modern Chess Openings, the 15th edition. It's inexpensive, won't cost you much. You don't have to have every single variation there is, but it's a great way to have a book that you can look up some openings and select among the various positions you're comfortable with. So you have 5 or 6 variations, you play them over. Gee, which one do I like? Do I like what's happening here? Yeah, I do. I think I'll play that. What about this one? Oh, no, I don't like that. So let's leave that one alone. Okay, what I'm going to show you today is the Hungarian defense. And some of you don't know what it is, and you'll know it in just a second. Okay. Very common opening. It's a defense played by black. Now, when white plays bishop c4, we're just going to cover the Hungarian defense today. The two most common replies for black are bishop c5 and knight f6. One leads into the gioco piano, or Italian game, maybe a Nevin's gambit. If you don't know those, don't worry. And the other is knight f6, which leads to what we call the two knights defense. And there's a lot of theory on these. And I'm going to cover some of these down the line in my videos, but not yet. But if you're going to play this opening as black, you're going to have to know it quite well, because if you don't, there's a chance you're going to fall into a trap. One of the countless traps that have been discovered over the last couple hundred years, and they can usually be found in some anthology like the Best 1,000 Shortest Games of Chess by Irving Chernev, and so forth and so forth. And be quite embarrassing to walk into a trap where you lose the game very quickly. And I have a move here will just stop that. You won't fall into a trap, and all of white's preparation, if he is prepared, is broken. And that's what you want to try to do. Control the opening. Get to play a position you know, not one that your opponent knows. And the key move to the Hungarian defense is simply to play bishop e7, and there it is. It looks like a passive place for the bishop, but it's actually a very versatile piece here. First off, it's stopping knight g5, a move that's playable if black plays knight f6. Okay, so what's white going to do here? Let's talk about it. You'll see how easy this opening is to learn. Okay, a logical move is just a castle. Okay, now just develop your knight. Now knight g5 is playable, but black has a resource. He's going to castle, and all his problems are solved. Black will just develop his pieces, and even if white doesn't play g5, black's problems are solved. White develops his pieces, black develops his. Game's even, there's no weaknesses. You play a game of chess and use your skill against your opponents, and you learn from how the game unfolds, and you didn't get taken out in the opening due to some trap. Now, white doesn't necessarily have to castle here. The book, or most common line, is to play d4. Now the question is how to answer, and here's what I'm going to teach you. You answer with d6. Okay? Now, white has two choices: push the pawn or take on e5. That's looking at push. And I think a lot of people are going to do this at the lower levels. I really do. It's just a natural instinct. Oh, gee, look, I'm seizing some space. I'm attacking his knight. I'm going to drive it to a bad square. And black just called me, plays knight b8. And a lot of people will really prefer white here, but black actually has a very easy game to play. See, here's one thing about chess. When the center locks like this, being behind development doesn't quite mean as much, because you'll have time to catch up. And with the position in the center being closed, white's certainly not going to throw a quick attack black's way that black doesn't have time to stop and protect himself against. But black right now has a ready-made plan. And you want to know what to do from here? It's easy. What black wants to do is play knight bd7, a5, and knight to c5. This puts the knight on a great square. It won't be driven away easily by a white pawn. And black's next objective at some point, with a little preparation, he probably want to play knight f6, castle, and then retreat the knight. But black's objective is to get f5 in, striking the heart of the white pawn chain. And then black's ready to open up the f-file and possibly conduct kingside attacking operations on the f-file. Now, how difficult is that? It's not. You just have to know the key moves and how to steer for them. The game will play itself. Okay? Now, let's back up and consider what happens on pawn takes. Okay, you want to take back with the pawn. I'll just show you with diagrams. I think you can follow it, or with arrows. If you take with the knight, it opens up this diagonal for the white queen. White will take. Black needs to take back, and you can see this queen gets to h5 with a nasty threat on f7 that black's going to have some trouble dealing with, and a threat on the pawn on e5. And black's going to lose a pawn. I think he has to play g6, and then queen takes e5, and you're attacking this rook, and black's just running into all kinds of pins, and he's just got a messy game. So just take back with the pawn. And remember, the objective of black is just to equalize the opening. You fight back later when white makes a mistake. So if white trades queens, black has absolutely nothing to fear. His pawn structure is perfect. Okay, most of the pawns haven't moved. There's no weaknesses. White will develop, black will develop. White's basically got nothing more than what we call the advantage of the first move. White's king bishop is a little better placed than the black king bishop. That's the price you pay. But white doesn't have any kind of a lasting advantage here. It's going to require black to make some mistakes to get in a bad game. All you do is just develop your pieces. Okay? So I've known about this for a while. I actually promoted it on my video lessons 5 as one suggested opening, and since that time I got to play 2 games using it. I don't care what happens in these games. What counts is what do you learn from them, and how do you learn to play. So I'm going to just run through quickly a couple games I played in March of this year, and we'll have a look at them and see how these games unfold, and give you an idea how to play these positions. Okay, let me enter the first one. Okay, let's back it up. This is against one of my students. He's actually a candidate master now. Anyway, there's the Hungarian. So he plays d4 and I play d6, and he opts to exchange the queens. And my opponent really makes a poor choice here, and we'll see it in just a moment. And this game becomes very easy for black to play. I go threaten to double his pawns, and it seemed like a good idea, and I'm going to do that in the next game. And my opponent came up with an interesting response, and he came up with knight g5. And now there's a threat on f7, but as I said earlier, if you're playing the bishop out first, you stop knight g5. As soon as the knight comes out to f6, black's ready to castle, and that's what I do. And at this point, my opponent makes a mistake, and I don't want you guys to make the mistake. He opts to give up 2 pieces for the rook. Now he gets a pawn for it, but essentially this is a winning position for black. Black will trade down to an ending, whereas 2 minor pieces will just run havoc around the rook. Black will use his 2 pieces to go win a pawn, and then win another pawn, then create a pass pawn, and game over. And let's just watch how this unfolds. We'll do it kind of quickly here. Here he opts to give up his other bishop. This is fine with me, and I preserve my bishop, and we just kind of go through some maneuvering. Now I'm happy to have 2 bishops against a rook, but not quite yet. I stop and make a threat, and now I get rid of it. And now all this position is essentially winning for black, and let me demonstrate how I do it. He starts advancing pawns, but those start creating some weaknesses in his position, and I start occupying them. Okay, bishop's on d4. That's a great square for the bishop. It's centralized. It's pointing in 2 directions. Black's got everything he wants. So now he's trying to get some kind of a tactical shot on the open up some lines, relying on a pin. And I see a weak square, so I go and occupy it. And now he attacks the pinned piece. This pawn on f6 is pinned, rather. He's attacking my bishop, so it's a simple threat to deal with. I just slide my king over. Now he helps me. He offers a rook trade, and he's got another little trick up his sleeves. If I grab this pawn, he plays f4. But again, these threats are easy to see. I just start centralizing my king for the ending, and now the trick is get the bishops in play. So he's just kind of fumbling for moves here, and since I have all this direct line for my king to enter the position, that's what I do. And he's just desperately trying to find some counterplay, and now I've just won 2 pawns, so now I'm a pawn ahead. Next step is to get a pass pawn. Well, I have a pass pawn on f6, but it's not that important just yet. The key is to get a pass pawn on the queen side, get it running. And here it's coming, and he looked at this and realized that he's going to lose the pawn on b3, and my pawn on a5 will just run right up the board and make a queen. So that's in essence. I want to make that quick simply because I want to make this video quick to watch. But anyway, let's look at this other game I played, and the first one was played St. Paddy's Day. This was played about within 10 days, I think, up in Lancaster. One was in Whittier, California. And both the time controls were like 40 minutes with delay 5 or something. They're kind of quick. This is in round 1 of a tournament. Anyway, Hungarian comes back, and he opts to do the same. Now, so far, so just like the other game, but here I castled against Perkins. I'd played bishop g4, but I'm still going to do this, and now I opt to give him a set of double pawns. Okay, and looks like black's doing fine here. White's got some weak pawns, and I anchor that pawn in, and it looks kind of funny to stick this knight on the edge of the board, but the knight's doing a good job there, and it'll get back into play by way of g7. If his knight on e2 vacates, I've got a great square f4 in mind, so I'm kind of tying his knight down. Now his knight's even further tied down because he advances his pawn, and I stop that pawn from coming. It will cost him a pawn. It'll be doubled, but it'll still cost him a pawn. and he goes for some tactics here to try to win a pawn, and I basically allow it. And I'm going to sacrifice a pawn here. You'll see it here in just a moment. Now there's no threat on a pawn on b2. But look at the white pawn structure. Most of his pawns are isolated, and he's got a couple of double pawns. I've got a couple isolated pawns too, but my pawn on d4 is wedged into the board. The one on a7 is quite safe. I've got an open file. Black has compensation for the pawn sacrificed. Whoops, went a little too far back. That's a little too far forward. Hit the wrong button. Okay, up. Now, guard my pawn. Now he guards his knight, so he could contemplate pushing his c pawn. Now I'm getting the knight back in play. It's tying his knight down to e2, and he guards c2. Now I double. Now he tries to shove his pawn up a little bit and keep me from grabbing it, so he's trying to free his rook. I don't mind. I send his king back the other direction, get a set of rooks off. Now I'm still a pawn down, but I have an active game, and that's about all I can ask for. So you could say that, hey, you're nearly 200 points rated higher than this guy. Why aren't you killing him? You're a pawn down. Well, chess isn't that easy. A player within 200, even 300 points is quite capable of you. Is quite capable of giving you a good game. I've got all the play here. It's by no way, shape, or means clear how I'm going to win this, but I've got the more active game, and that's what I want. And for black, even if you're down upon it, if you have the more active game, there's some good chances for you to win. Now I pressure his pawn. Now he's tied down to guarding that. So look at his minor pieces. Each one's guarding a pawn. His rook on d2 is guarding a pawn. My rook's attacking a pawn. My knight on e6 is attacking a pawn. Yeah, my bishop's defending a pawn, but two out of my three pieces are attacking. All three of his are defending. So now my rook takes on a double role, attacking two different pawns. He tries to kick me out. I just come back this way, and now he elects to sacrifice a pawn back. I just take it, and now let's take a look now. Now my pawns are messed up on the king side. I don't have any connected pawns anymore, but once again, I've got the more active pieces. My bishop on b6 isn't doing a whole lot for me, but there's a potential target for it in the ending on f4, and I seek to activate it on a new diagonal. And what happened at this point is my opponent's flag fell. He was down to just seconds, and he would have been playing a delay 5. Who knows what would have happened? I still had a few minutes on my clock. Who knows what would have happened? But essentially, he's never going to have more than 5 seconds for a move, and that's kind of a handicap, because eventually something's tricky's going to happen. Chances are he's going to make a slip. Yeah, I could make one too, but black stands just ever so slightly better here, and for a 200 rating point advantage, that's what you can expect, a slight advantage. Chess isn't easy, especially at the higher levels. So my opponent played a reasonable game, but he never really got anywhere with it, any kind of coordinated game with his pieces. It never really caught fire for him. But anyway, in essence, this is the Hungarian defense. And again, I'll be running some thematic correspondence tournaments, online tournaments, where you can enter. You need to be a member of my video lessons group and sign up in the topic in our forums where I do this, and I'll sort all this up and decide how I want to run it in the very near future. So I have other openings I want to show that'll help you break your opponent's preparations and get into your simple ones. I'm open to suggestions, which openings you want. I can't promise I'll get to them right away. I do want to show game examples. When I have a game example, you don't know this, if I do or necessarily, but when I do and have a useful one that I can show you how to play these, I think they'll be good sources to show you some games out of my 40-plus career as a tournament chess player. Okay, I'll do these as often as I can. I'm teaching chess 70 hours a week, And I'm loving it, but I've got time to make these when I have time. And look forward to bettering your chess. Take care. Thanks again.